Hey, so in this video, let's just continue playing around with the robot character. So in the first video, we modeled this character together. In the second one, I went over and I kind of explained my process of doing UVs. So for this, the third video, what I did is I took the time and created UVs on my end, just like I discussed in the second video. And this is what I ended up with, right? So I did end up making a lot of different separate pieces. And the reason for that is because when we jump into Substance Painter, I wanted to make sure it's really simple and easy to isolate each one and color it as you, for example, wish to do without using, color IDs or anything like that. Just simply using the meshes to isolate various parts. So I think that makes the most sense. So what I'm going to do is you're welcome to use your own character that you've been modeling since the first video. Or if you want to just follow along just using the Substance Painter, you're welcome to download what I have here. And I have a link in the descriptions. So you can follow me using exactly the same topology and the UVs, right? With that said, let's jump right into Substance Painter. So the first step in Substance Painter is I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to set the document resolution to 2K and just simply select the file robot.fbx, say Open, and let's go ahead and just simply say OK. Alright, so this is what it looks like when it comes in. The first step is going to be, I guess the second step, right, is texture set settings. And let's go into our bake mesh maps. And in here, let's just simply select this to 2K. We're going to use low poly mesh as the high poly mesh. The anti-aliasing, I'm going to set mine to 4. And there's no normal map on this guy, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that just so we don't have any cleanup to do. Because there's no normal map because there's no high res version of this guy. So I'm going to simply say bake. Alright, once the bake finishes, let's go ahead and say return to paint mode and take a look. And we can see, we can rotate by holding the Alt key and click and rotate, click and drag, you can rotate the character and see if you see any kind of issues that need to be cleaned up. This seems to be pretty perfect. And the reason for your bakes, if you want high quality, clean, trouble-free bakes, that's going to obviously come down ultimately to doing good UVs, right? So if your meshes are properly separated and unwrapped, then you can see that the bake will eventually reflect that. If you ever do something and you start seeing issues like black spots or any kind of things that don't look right, usually that means the UVs are not properly set up, and there's things that might be overlapping, like this kind of stuff that is going to be visible on the character, for example, right? All of these are being hidden, so that's fine. But if you start seeing any kind of strangeness on your mesh as you're baking, that just means you have to go back into your 3D package and rework the UVs and all that stuff. Alright, so cool, very cool. So this looks nice. If you ever want to center this back into the screen, just press F. Let's keep this very simple, right? He just has one material. Alright, so let's just start playing around and maybe exploring some options for doing textures for this guy. I can go ahead and delete this default layer. I actually don't need it. I can jump into my smart materials and just see if anything here looks interesting. All of these have been downloaded from the Substance source website that comes with the subscription for the Substance Painter, right? So none of these materials are custom or anything like that. You can download all of these. So I have one called, let's see, Chrome. Let's see what that looks like. You can see what the Chrome looks like. That's kind of interesting. We can drag, let's see what else can we see. So I'm in the smart materials section, and we can see what the glassy film looks like. This is kind of interesting, and it's also interesting because it has, because it's a smart material, right? So it comes with a bunch of things preset. So one of them being dirt, and dirt is fun, right? Because it's giving us nice variations for the edges in the material, which is cool. So this actually looks pretty fun. Let's see what else we got. So how about this iron forge one? So let's take a look and see it. I actually like this if you are making a game where the robot needs to be kind of beat up and weathered or aged a little bit. This actually seems like a good material. This one is called iron forged old, right? I actually like it. I think for this, for what I'm doing for this demonstration, I kind of want to keep it very clean and new, right? Like my guy or this character just came from the factory. Like he hasn't really been through a war or battle or anything like that. I kind of want to maintain that clean look. Let's just drag a couple more just for fun. Here I have Steel Dark Age. Let's see what that looks like. That should be a little bit cleaner, but still this has kind of this ancient old look, like he's been, you know, he's been through some stuff, right? This is a good base. You can use something like that, Steel Dark Aged, to start building kind of a story of the texture. Texture should always tell a story, right? I think this is actually a really cool one. I like this one. Let's see this steel one. So steel one, I find this a little bit boring. I have something called Steel Medieval, Stylized. Again, just totally having fun, and I'm assuming whoever's watching this is relatively new to Substance Painter, and I just wanted to show how fun and quickly you can change the entire look of the character by just dragging smart materials that are pre-existing right onto your meshes. So that's sort of the reason for this exploration. We can use any one of those. If we wanted to create something, like I said, you know, something that looks new and clean, I could just simply say add a fill layer, right? And once that happens, I can come back into my properties and just simply dial up the metallic, right? Because he is metal. I can of course control the darkness, right? So maybe I want to go for something, you know, something kind of a basic metal, something like that. I can change the roughness, so I can decide if I want them to be super shiny or maybe not as shiny. I was thinking for my character to be something along these lines right here. So I think that kind of makes sense. And another thing that I liked when I was playing just with the materials before I even applied any textures is I did have some pieces of him that were black. So I think black and silver kind of goes together, and it looks kind of clean and interesting. So for that, for the second one, maybe I can just do the same. I'm gonna go to like a black, and you never want to do complete total black. You really want to always stay kind of in this area here when it comes to game characters, right? Otherwise, when you are putting this character in the HDR environment and you have maps reflecting, you know, if you do something like this, you're not going to have a lot of interaction in the environment. But if you do something like this, you have a little more room for some shadows or anything like that, right? So I kind of like this. Let's do, let's check the roughness for the black piece. Maybe the black parts of him are a little more, you know, a little less rough. So maybe something like that. I do like to be somewhat metallic, that's fine. Let's go ahead and apply a black mask, and let's just select pieces that we want to have the mask, right? So I'm gonna select this guy here. I'm gonna click on here, and let's just simply select some of the elements that we think should be black. I think I'm gonna leave the spine, I'm gonna make the spine black as well. All right, let's do the same thing with the fingers. I'm gonna click on the fingers. Now, if I wanted to, I'm gonna undo this. If I wanted to do both at the same time, obviously I can turn on symmetry. And you can see there's a red line in the middle of the character, which now will allow me to select, for example, the fingers, and I can see that it's doing it on both sides, right? That makes sense. If you wanted to, in this case, if you wanted to, for example, click on the leg, but you see that it's actually not, it's actually attached, right? So for that, I'm going to switch to UVs and just click on the leg because I know the UVs were unwrapped separately, right? So that's cool. Let's see what else. Maybe the bottom could be black as well. And I would like this piece to be black because I want the emission coming out from the center, and that would be cool if this was a little bit darker. I think that works. This piece back here could be dark as well. And if I jump out of this mode, I can see how it's looking. I can also move my light around by clicking Shift and right-clicking. You can move the light around. You can also change the environment map to see how it looks maybe in different lightings, right? You can play around and see what you like. You can click on this cool studio one. I always think that's interesting. It's kind of hard to see in our case, so I'm gonna go back to the glazed patio. All right, if I wanted to, maybe I can make this a little bit lighter so I have a little more of a contrast. That looks pretty cool. Let's see, what else can we do? So if I wanted to, let's go back here and let's go back to our mask. Let's say I wanted to add some emission. How do I add cool blue lights glowing from maybe his face and specific parts of the mesh, right? Well, to do that, all you need to do is just simply add a channel for emission. So let's say plus, and let's go ahead and add an emissive channel. As soon as you add an emissive channel, it looks like nothing has happened, but if you select another color, right? Let's do another fill layer. You will see that there's a new section that appears right here in the material called emission. If I hold on the Alt key and click on it, I can isolate it. And now what I can do is I can select the color of the glowing that I like. Maybe kind of a blue, light blue would make sense, right? So next I'm gonna right click and do a black mask. So I'm gonna mask out that emission. And you know what, we can actually call this glowing if we wanted to. We can call this black, and we can call this base. That's fine. And for glowing, let's just simply go back into polygon fill, and I'm gonna keep using the UV chunk fill. I love that feature. And I'm just gonna simply click on the pieces that I want to be glowing. So I want that to be glowing. I know that this, the UVs for this were separated as well. So that's a cool piece. We can decide if we want these to be glowing or not, maybe not. Let's see, what else can we glow? So I know that in the ears, when we're modeling the ears, we added a little bevel there. So that could be cool. I also added, just for fun, these pieces to be separated as well. And see, this is what I was trying to tell you. If you plan ahead, right, and you can create your UVs as separate meshes, you can see them kind of floating around in between. But because the UVs are separated, I can use this really cool way to quickly select my UVs and just ID them in, right? Just color them in. So that's one of the ways that I like to personally work. And I can do the same thing here. I know that that piece was separated as UVs as well. All right, so all of that could be glowing. Now, if we want to actually see this stuff glow, right, instead of just looking like a paint, to do that, all we need to do is just go to our display settings, and then here we can do a couple things. We can turn on the shadows, And I like, if I do turn them on, I like to dial them down a little bit so it's not, you know, too overwhelming. But this will look a little more like the real-time environment in the game. So you probably do want to turn this on. And then the other one is the active post effects. This is where the glowing magic happens. If you turn that on and go to glare, turn the glare on. And then if you open that up, you can switch this shape to bloom, right? And then we have a couple options here. We can play with these. And you can see that the glowing is going to be, or the glaring, or the bloom, I guess, will be affected by that. If we want to intensify the glowing a little more, like it actually, you know, the way it would show up in the game, for that, what we need to do is we need to go into here, and we want to turn the emissive intensity. Right now it's set to 1 by default. We need to pump this up. And in the game, usually, you know, you would have the same setting, so obviously it would make more sense if this was a little more intense, like it's glowing, right? And if I go back here, I can turn down some of this stuff here, you know, just see what makes sense. I think something like that should work. Very cool. Let's see, what else can we do? So, and again, keep in mind, I love playing around with this stuff. So as you change your environment map, that's going to dramatically change how the character is lit, but the emission is going to stay the same, right? It's going to glow regardless, right? So that's really cool. So for now, I'm going to go back to my glazed and keep using that. Let's go ahead and see what else can we do. I definitely want the knees to be glowing, so I'm going to go back into my mask, go back into polygon fill, and let's go ahead and make these glow as well, and decide what else we like. Let's see if there's anything back here. Now keep in mind, if something that not everything that's glowing, obviously, for example, in this case, needs to be mesh driven, right? Some of it could be mask driven. So what does that mean? Well, if I go into, for example, something like, let's go into brushes, and let's just grab something like basic hard brush. So I'm going to double click on it. And now if I change the size of my brush, I can start adding little things that are part of the mask, but they are not part of the mesh, right? So, you know, why not get a little glowing in his hands as well? I think that's kind of neat. We can either do that, or we can just do a dark mask, right? Maybe if we think that's a little too much, let's come back here and let's instead turn these into kind of a dark matte or a dark material, right? So that's looking pretty good. I don't want to get carried away, because this could, you know, you could spend hours playing around with different variations and options in here. I just wanted to show kind of the basics. And one other thing you can always play around with is if you wanted to add some normal detail, like, you know, we can easily stamp some normal stamps on. So let's go ahead and do, let's add a layer. Let's jump into our alphas, and in here you have a few options. If not, you can also, of course, just create black and white shapes in Photoshop, right? Just PSD files. Just make sure you have a black background, and then the white would be the alpha. And you can create any shape you like, but in my case, let me just grab something that I already have, maybe that would make sense for a robot. For example, this shape right here should work. I'm gonna double click on it. When I double click on it, you can see in the properties pane, it was used as a alpha, right? So now if I hold on the control key, I can rotate it. I can also come down here, press Alt and select normal, and let's do a height. And for the height, let's just decide if we want to mesh to be pushed out or kind of pushed in. If I do, if I go to the right, that's going to push it in. And now what I could do is I can just decide where I want this mesh to be. Maybe I want it you know, in the center. If I want in the center, I probably don't want the symmetry on, but let's just try it. So you have something like that. I can make it a little smaller. Let me just do something like that. You can see what that looks like. In this case, that feels way too strong. Now, one cool thing to keep in mind, if you added something, for example, like this, and you wanted to dial this down, you can always go to the height, and you can just change the height at any time, right? So you can control that and see if you like it. I don't want to do too much, but let's just maybe stamp something in the back as well. I can grab something like this. Here's a square vent that I have on my computer. I can increase the size. Let's make it a little bit larger. Let's go ahead and maybe flip it over. I can just stamp it right on here. All right, and because I'm still stamping it on the same layer, it's using the same settings, right? So I can still maintain that. For example, if I stamp something and I feel like it's a little bit low resolution, one of the tricks that I like to do is I'll just add a filter and I'll just do like a little blur. And then if you, you know, you can control the blur, but you can see how if something is, if your UVs are low res, it's a cool little trick to just simply smooth it out, and it looks fine from you know, from a little further away. Obviously, if you start zooming in, you might see a little imperfections, but this is a cool little demonstration of how blurring something can actually clean up you know, some of these issues. Just keep that in mind. Just another little tip. All right, so I think I'm happy with mine. One thing that I would like to do, I'm gonna jump back into base color, and I feel like maybe I can add just a little bit of a blue tint to this. So it's a little more kind of a metally feel. All right, let's see, what else can we do? So if I go into the base color, you can currently see that the base color is super boring, right? There's no stylized painting on the base color map of any kind. It's literally just two colors. So to combat that, one way you can do that, one trick you could do is you can add a fill layer, right click, go to filter, and then you can do something called bake lighting. When you add a bake lighting, you can see that a baked lighting will be added to the base color map, right? And the cool thing about this is, let's change the angle of the sun a little bit. And now what we could do is we can take this baked lighting and we can do a soft light, right? And now if I turn this on and off, you can see the difference, right? So the difference is quite large, and now especially if you go back into the material mode, you can see that it's a little more interesting, right? Now I don't want my glowing to be underneath the bake lighting, so I do need to move this up, but let's go ahead and call this baked lights. But you could clearly see how it becomes a lot more interesting. Now it's stealing some of the roughness. So for my baked light, I just want the color. So I'm gonna click Alt and click color. Now you can see that the baked light is just affecting the color only, right? So of course I can come here and I can dial this down. So this is at 0, and then here's just a little bit. So you can see how it's adding a little bit of a dark shadow on the bottom of the character, which is really cool, a little more stylized. Another thing we can do is we can add a, let's go ahead and add another layer. And in here, let's add a generator. And let's do something like metal edge. So I'm gonna click on that. I can clean it up by just dialing the wear level down. I can also change the grunge amount. I don't really want any grunge. I just want maybe some of these cool highlights. And now what I could do is if I come up here and switch this to, let's do something like exclusion or difference. Let's do difference. And in difference, let's make sure that we are only affecting the color. So again, Alt click, and I want to do the same thing here. All right, now you can see if I click this on and off, how the edges, right? You can see it right here in the stomach, especially how the edges are maybe a little more worn down, right? So we could do that. We can also maybe dial it down or up, whatever we like. So maybe I'm gonna leave mine something like at 35, just so I have just a little bit of the detail, and you can see it on the elbows as well. So I think that's pretty cool. So we can call these edge highlights. So now we got edge highlights. We got our glowing. We have our bake lights. Another cool trick, if you wanted to, you can always add, like if you wanted to add just a little bit of a noise into this design, I could always add another fill layer. Come up here, click on Old Color, and under base color, for example, I could just do something like clouds. Let's click on this clouds 3. You can see what that looks like. And now if I come up here and do something like screen, and let's just drag this down to be right above the base color. We can call this noise. And now if you toggle this back on and off, you can see how it's just adding just a little bit of a noise to the surface, right? We can of course also change the intensity. Maybe we just want just a little bit. I'm gonna leave mine on like 25, just so it's a little more interesting, right? Very subtle. All right, so the next step, once you are done playing with textures, let's just quickly bring this into Maya and see how something like this is looking in Maya, right? So I'm gonna do that. Let's go ahead and save. I'm gonna go File, Export Textures. I'm going to leave the definition on. I personally like to use background color. For the size, let's just leave it on 2K. We can use the PNG, and I'm going to use the output template as a PBR metallic roughness. If you wanted to preview which maps it's going to give you, you can come here and see what they are. If you want to see their names, just say list, and you can see what you're going to get. So you're going to get base color, emission, height, metallic, normal, and roughness. Let's go back into settings. Let's just decide where we want the maps to be exported to. So in here I can make a folder called textures. And just say open, say export. If you wanted to, once you export this out, you can preview what they look like. All right, so here are my maps. Here's my color map. And here's my emission map. So let's grab these. Let's go ahead and grab these and plug them into Maya. All right, so here I am in Maya. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have the Substance plugin activated. That's going to be under Windows, Settings, Plugin Manager, and then here if you just type in Substance, you should see the bundle. So you could say, make sure you load all of these. Once you do that, you should see a little Substance thing come up. All right, so now if I go into my Substance tab, in here there's a button called Apply Workflow to Maps. If I click on that, I can just simply select the multiple maps that we just exported. Go to my textures. I can select all of these and just say select, and you can see they will automatically populate. If you wanted to, we could also bake in ambient occlusion or bring it in. Just for the sake of this exercise, let's go ahead and grab ambient occlusion as well. So how do I do that? I'm going to go back to export, and the easiest and the fastest way is just simply change the output template to something like mesh maps. Go into your materials, and in here you can see that ambient occlusion has been added to our list, right? Which means if we go back to settings, we can just simply hover over these, and I know right here it says ambient occlusion, right? So I do want this one, but I don't want any other ones, right? Because we already exported our maps out. So I'm going to leave ambient occlusion checked and just simply say export. If I come back here, I can see that ambient occlusion has been added, which means if I jump back into Maya, I can just navigate to my newly exported file and say select, and voila, now I have all of them, right? Now, if I say apply, a new material has been added, but we have to still assign it to our mesh. So I'm going to click on my character, right click, go to existing, and I know that the newly one is going to be called AI standard surface. I created all of these, so I know this is the new one. So I'm going to select it. And now if I turn my maps textured button on, you can see that all of the materials come in, right? Just like we had in Substance Painter. Now I do have some lights set up from our previous tutorial. So if I turn this on, you can see what that looks like. I just have an environment map with a couple area lights. So let me show you what that looks like. So I have an area light right here on the back of the character, and I have one in the front, and then I just have the dome. And the way you create this is you just go to Arnold, lights, and you add a sky dome, and then assign an HDR, and then you can do a couple area lights, right? So this is kind of my rim light. So once you set up your lights, you can of course render the character and see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm gonna make sure my render is set up to Arnold. I can come down here. I can set my width and the height of my image size. I can go to my Arnold render and I can change these as I wish. Another thing I do have imagers set up. So this is, I added some denoise ones, and I added a lens effect. And on the lens effect, you can see that I have the bloom turned on at 0.132. So now if I quickly do a test render, I can see what that looks like. After a few more tweaks, I decided to go with a lighter base. I think something lighter like a white and black colors look really nice on this 3D model. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in our next video.